Welcome back. It's been a minute, hasn't it? This is, lo and behold, the behemoth LED infested slab of metal which drained every penny in my bank account last summer, the very mighty and mightily expensive ROG Zephyrus G16. I've had it for about 14 months now, maybe a little longer, and it's been pretty interesting, so strap in, get comfy, get some popcorn. This will be a good one. Let's go. Oh boy, this one is good. I also impulsively have to talk about it before anything else because it is one of, if not the best screen I've ever used. It's a Samsung made 16-inch QHD plus 240Hz OLED, and even today I still marvel at how good it is. This display better be friggin' top shelf if you're shelling out more than you would on a small car for this G16. And yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous. 2.5K is just enough pixels for this size. The 3K resolution from the G14 would have been nice, but it's been comfortable during long nights spent on documents for my uni work, and then when I've gamed with Dolby Vision HDR turned on, it looks outrageously good, blasting 4.1 million pixels of OLED nutrition straight into your retinas, and at such a high refresh rate, it becomes quite the experience. The 240Hz was left on religiously, even though a couple of native apps and UI didn't seem well optimized for it, but in ones that did, it's been so fast and liquid smooth, it's spoiled me. Burn-in risk was almost enough to push me to an LCD because I was worried the screen would get it, but I've left the same browser bar, Word documents in black theme with white text, static wallpapers and desktop layouts on the screen for hours and hours on end, and basically for every day since I got it, and there is no screen burn. I'm mighty impressed. Granted, I don't use it at high brightness unless I'm gaming, and I do try and shift windows around and change browser themes to switch it up, but you'd think something would end up stuck, and it hasn't. On the flip side, the mirror on this panel, aka the inconsistency of light in individual pixels, is very noticeable. It hasn't annoyed me per se, but it's there for sure, up to about 70% brightness. Although, unless I've peeped at mine, it's more like 40 or 50%. It's just a general graininess across the whole screen. I'm used to it, and doing a quick dig on Asus forums and Reddit, I'm luckily not the only one. It seems to be an issue on last year's model. Where this mirror did come back to bite me was when I was making the Pixel 8 video and I was analysing photos on that screen and going, wow, the Pixel 8 shots are all so grainy, and then I realised, nope, it's just the screen that's displaying them. That is a problem. The other problem is ghosting, which is maybe more annoying. You can see pretty clear artifacts at low brightness after a few minutes of not moving the UI, but this doesn't affect usability of the screen and it goes away again after a few minutes. Okay, time for design. This laptop is really sleek and good looking. I think Asus got this aesthetic bang on. It's more cleaned up and well dressed than gamery and flashy at this point. The exterior is kind of safe playing, but it's clean, slightly boxy with a couple chamfers running around the edges. The lid's got this chrome ROG logo bottom left, and of course, if the 2023 G16 had a full fat LED matrix, this one is the semi-skim version. That said, I still really like it. The LEDs get nicely bright, they offer a nice heap of preset animations. The LEDs do also add a bit of ambient lighting, which is kind of a vibe when I'm deep in a game, so I've kept them on pretty much all year when the laptop's plugged in. Then you open the lid and it's just a nice place to be. I love this clean white keyboard against the silver chassis and the holy speaker grills, even if anything getting in those ain't coming out all too easily, if at all. Also, these channels separating the speaker islands from this sea of keyboard are pretty unique. And you can't miss this big old matte glass trackpad, it's massive. This platinum white looks great, the finish looks better than it feels, but functionally I can't hate on how well it hides fingerprints. The texture is a super fine pebble-like one, but I would have preferred a more satin feel like my old Surface laptop. The I/O platter here is solid. The left side's got Asus's 200 watt proprietary charging port, then the full-size HDMI, one Type-C port, one Type-A port, and the combined audio jack. The right side's quieter, it's just got another Type-C, another Type-A, and a full-size card reader. Also, quick note, the full-size HDMI only works with the Nvidia GPU powered up, which is a bit annoying. I also think maybe one more Type-C port would be nice, but I'm pretty happy with this setup. So far then, the hardware looks fantastic, but how's it all held up after 14 months? Well, keeping the praise going, this keyboard is great. The font grew on me, I really quite like it now. This board's got single zone white only backlighting because I'm English and we don't get the nice RGB variant that you lucky Americans get to buy. Either way, lighting hasn't raised any concerns. You get 3 levels of brightness and I've kept it almost permanently on the lowest one. Sometimes the text is hard to see on keys where the illumination doesn't quite reach the edges, but it's minor, and to type on it's very comfortable. Well spaced. I've had very little fatigue from long typing sessions. I had a lot of assignments this final year of uni and I did all my typing on this, including most of my 9,000 word dissertation the day it was due, so I can vouch for this keyboard. I can also more than vouch for the 4 woofers and 2 tweeters hidden somewhere around this chassis. They sound phenomenal, detailed, rich with very deep bass, which hits as low as 100 Hz. The projection in some rooms could be a tad better. They definitely fall off a little quick, but that hasn't stopped me using them around the house as a portable boombox. They are a lovely set of speakers. Cranked to full, they don't distort whatsoever unless you use the Dolby Access app to change the audio preset to movie or dynamic, which seriously bumps the max volume, but I kept them on the default music mode because they sounded a little bit nicer. Jumping off the wagon of praise for a second, the G16's quality control is quite frankly lackluster here. Prime example of this is the trackpad. It's very fast and very, very smooth. Its physical presses are really thunky, proper feeling. Unfortunately, from day one, it felt a bit weak and a bit fragile. There was a flimsiness to it which made me anxious to put any kind of force on it, and lo and behold, I was right. 6 months in, it came loose, started rattling on one side, and this made the clicks uneven. And then I found out a good few people had this same issue or variations of it online with this G16. Another one, the webcam, and basically all the sensors in this top bezel, but most notably the webcam, are misaligned in their cutouts. Same with the headphone jack. Maybe I'm just severely OCD, but I don't know, it just looks a bit shit to me on a gorgeous laptop like this. And more annoyingly, the webcam's full of dust. It must have got inside the lid through these plastic and metal divide seams on the lid. How hard would it be to just center and seal around these sensors, you know? Surely this wouldn't be a difficult fix. The chassis also creaks a bit when I've picked it up one-handed and consistently creaks when I twist it, and this gets worse when it's warmer. The hinge also seems to creak if I move it after a bit of time, probably down to the plastic on it slightly changing shape with the heat from the fans. Again, little things, but they all add up. They're all quality related and they all probably could have been fixed fairly easily. The security here is handled by Windows Hello in the forehead bezel, and I won't lie to you, it sucks in anything but good lighting. If I get a haircut, it just doesn't recognize who I am anymore. It's like I'm a complete stranger. It is not entirely the G16's fault, to its credit. It's a Windows thing. Since post-April this year, Windows 11 started requiring both the infrared and the RGB camera for Face Unlock. Before this came in though, the Face Unlock was good, but still not the fastest or the most accurate I'd used anyway. I'd say it was still worse than my old Surface laptop. Getting to specs, I chose, or more accurately, could afford the Intel Core Ultra 9, 32 gigs of RAM, a TB SSD, and an Nvidia RTX 4060. And yeah, if the AMD version wasn't consistently an extra £500 to £600 over the Intel one here in the UK, you best know I would have gone with that, but I honestly don't think it justifies the price bump unless you really need that extra battery life. But I have the Intel one in front of me, and unplugged, I'm usually running silent mode and G-Helper with the default power limits, default fan curves, and the efficient enabled CPU boost, and the Ultra 9 has been, as a whole, a quick chip. Loading times, short. Having loads of apps open as any sane guy would with this much RAM gave me no issues. The Ultra 9 keeps up well. Thermally, it does like to sit a smidgen under 60 degrees a lot of the time, but if you're on a very light workload, you can keep it low 50s, high 40s. Only irritation I've had the past year on the unplugged performance has been the smoothness in Windows. It's just inconsistent. Half the animations are beautiful, but still carry an occasional frame drop, and half of them are janky, like they're just painful to watch. It's so incohesive against the rest of the G16, but Windows here feels like an afterthought sometimes, and there are a handful of consistent micro stutters in the UI which still haven't been ironed out. Luckily, when you plug it in, bump it in turbo mode, put the GPU in ultimate with aggressive CPU boost on, then it becomes a completely different story. This thing flies. Every animation that micro stutters on battery turns buttery smooth, it's even more responsive, and it's just a really nice experience when it's maxed out. But it also runs very hot. I know it's meant to aim for 100 degrees or below, and I've seen it hit about 97, 98 degrees CPU when I'm gaming, and about 87 degrees on the GPU. The area above the keyboard gets pretty darn hot as well, and the heat sometimes travels through the whole chassis to the palm rest, which can get a little uncomfortable sometimes. Okay, let's talk gaming. I'd barely even call myself a gamer at this point. I just wanted the option in case I suddenly got all hardcore about it, and luckily when I do play on this 4060, the gaming experience to my eye is fabulous. I tested Overwatch 2 and Forza Horizon 3 because I forgot I'd cancelled Game Pass and this was all I had left, and I was mostly really impressed. All the tests I did were at native resolution, so 2.5K, and Dolby Vision HDR turned on. Overwatch I tested on epic settings, so a few things on ultra and the rest on high, and with VSync on I was seeing between 68 all the way up to 90 FPS, and even though the frame rate wasn't at all stable, the G16 didn't once feel like it was struggling, and the frame dips weren't big enough that you would notice them. I also didn't see it stutter at all, which is great. Moving to Forza was about the same in terms of the variation of frame rates. On the default high settings with VSync on, I got between 80 and 105 FPS, but like Overwatch, it didn't impact the game, it was still more than smooth, in fact smoother. Horizon 3's VSync is really dodgy, so I got forced to turn it off by the game and I was suddenly seeing like 90 to 110 FPS. Then on ultra settings with everything maxed out, no VSync, it dipped a little low, 54 to 73 FPS on my first run, and then after a restart I was seeing solid 60 to 75. Alright, quick PSA, I'm filming the last few clips of this video, and in hindsight I probably should have tested and filmed the Horizon 3 game footage on the same night, and probably also not used Horizon 3 as a benchmark in the first place, because oddly enough what you're seeing now and what you've been seeing for this Horizon 3 section is filmed footage at the ultra maxed out settings with VSync off, and it's sitting comfortably way higher than my first two unfilmed runs at about 80 to 110 FPS. Just thought I'd mention that because it's quite a big difference. My RTX 4060 unit has triple fans, one central and then one each for the CPU and the GPU. These fans can get pretty loud when they're running at full tilt, and they do click sometimes momentarily when they switch on, but my main gripe is this central fan. It has a noticeable whine to it all the way from 40 to 60% speed, and it pissed me off so much. The balanced power mode also consistently runs this middle fan at around 40 to 50% speed, so this is rubbing my ears a lot, and changing the fan curves and power limits manually to engage that middle fan less just seems to make it kick in more, ironically. Finally, the battery life with this 90 watt-hour battery is pretty poor right now. It's been better in the past. I think a factory wipe should kick it back into shape, but I was more worried when I saw my battery health after 14 months being 84%, which is pretty diabolical. Almost certainly that's because I've been using the 200 watt Asus charging brick for quite a lot of this laptop's life, but longevity on this thing, it's going to be an interesting bet to hedge. Then again, both the chargers that come in the box with the G16 juice it up so quick that at least there's some sort of safety net. My typical off-charge day looks like a lot of web browsing in Brave with loads of inactive tabs open, a bit of Word and Excel, a lot of Spotify, SoundCloud and YouTube, and some emails here and there. That's in silent mode with 240Hz on. I measured the screen on time from 100 to 15% with Activity Watch about midway through filming this video, and I got about 3 hours 50 minutes of screen on time, which is kind of shit, and I expected more from, albeit a gaming laptop, but also one with a Core Ultra 9, which you should expect to be at least decently efficient, so I'm a bit disappointed right now. Summing up the G16 then is hard. It's a very, very good laptop. The media experience with this awesome zippy OLED and these superb speakers, top tier. Not to mention this quote unquote gaming notebook is both really good at gaming, and then when it needs to be civilized, this toned down aesthetic strikes a really nice balance. And in my case, it just became my regular uni laptop. And of course, it still had the horsepower to run all the engineering software I needed back at home. However, some of the big pluses have those little irritations attached to them, like the amazing screen with that noticeable mirror, like the gorgeous design with that rattling trackpad and the creaking plastics. It just knocks it down a few points. And I'll be honest, I feel the same way about this G16 design that I did with the Pixel 8 Pros. It's great, but it's not cream of the crop premium. Overall, it's still one step below that. To wrap this up, I personally think if you're solely a gamer, spec oriented, look at other laptops value propositions, because I know for sure there are definitely cheaper ways to get the specs that this thing has. I think to get this 2024 G16, you should care more about having an overall more well-rounded device, which also games really well but remains a great laptop when you take away the gaming aspect. I think granted you find a sizable discount, even if they're pretty hard to come by on these G16s, and that you're willing to gamble on and put up with a few annoyances like the build quality and the incohesive software, then I'm saying this G16 is a go. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you very soon.